that transition's got to be slow for your team as well. I mean, that's really where it comes down to. Just really slowly kind of doing things, doing the work, gaining their trust, showing them, how things work. You can't just get thrusted into that role on day one. And then when the transition finally comes, I mean, the goal would be for your team to say, well, you sit them down and say, oh, today I am the CEO. And then, I mean, their question should be, I thought you already were. Like, you're already, that's how slow and gradual and natural that transition should be to be successful. That's what we've found anyways.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork podcast. Your host, Jacob Edmond, CEO of Ductworks, will be interviewing experts in the industry to bring you insights and knowledge about the latest trends, techniques, and challenges in millwork. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the world of millwork. Here's Jacob.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Today, I'm really honored to have David Stasiukaitis with us. He is CEO of Low Country Case and Millwork down in Somerville or North Charleston. Is it Somerville?
We're in North Charleston.
North Charleston, South Carolina. Okay. Working in the Charleston market, the Somerville market, which is a booming and exploding with work and population. So thank you for joining us, David.
No, absolutely. My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, to get started, I think it'd be great if you could provide a little bit about your background, talking about, so you're a CEO and owner of a millwork shop that I believe your father founded, right? So could you tell us a little bit about kind of your background, your journey from in millwork to where you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a long story, but I'll give you the abridged version. So my grandfather, Stasiukaitis, we're from Lithuania. So my grandfather got separated from his family when he was very young, and he ended up in a concentration camp, and basically he's an orphan. And the Red Cross asked him where he wanted to go, and of course, like back then, the streets in America were paved with gold. So he said, "I want to go to America." So they sent him to America. He ended up in Pennsylvania, and he was in foster care. And then one of his first jobs, though, was at a cabinet shop. Funny enough. So he had a couple years there, and then he ended up joining the Air Force to get his citizenship, which brought him to Charleston. So that's kind of how we ended up in Charleston. And of course, once you've been to Charleston, you never really leave. So
yeah,
except for you.
Yeah, except for me.
But he ended up being a general contractor, and my dad randomly he went to school for physics at the University of Chapel Hill, and then worked on McDonnell Douglas with the space shuttle for like a year, and they wanted him to go back to school and get his master's, and he had just had kind of enough of that route. So he ended up back in construction with his dad, and they built office buildings and houses, and they actually did their own cabinetry for their jobs internally. So that relationship, though, which we'll get into later, they didn't mesh quite as well as we did, and my dad ended up moving on and he saw that niche in the commercial cabinetry market and started Low Country Case and Millwork in 1990. He actually leased a warehouse from my grandfather off Trolley Road in Somerville. And growing up, I could actually ride my bike to the office. And so I would over the summer, sweep floors. And I'm kind of OCD, so they had me organize, racks of wood and different things. And that's kind of where it started. And it was always the plan. I mean, I saw it was such a great opportunity. I went to college at Charleston. I got a business degree, and kind of planned from there on to go into the business and start. So in 2007, I started full time, and of course, I worked all through the summers. I did install and production all through high school and college as well. And but yeah, 2007 full time, and my dad Robert, he kind of had me go in different segments. I'd spend 3 to 4 months in estimating, 3 to 4 months in project management, and did the mill shop. I ran the mill shop and then the cabinet shop. And so trying to get a nice overview and find some, efficiencies we could do and learn the different segments of the business before I kind of took over. And several years later, I kind of assumed the vice president role. And then we've slowly transitioned over the years to where now I am majority owner and CEO. And then my my father, Robert, he's in that generation where they're going to work until they die, and he has to have that purpose. And he serves a huge purpose still, but he gets to go to the job sites and meet clients, and he does a lot of field measuring and meeting with people and the stuff he really likes to do. And then I kind of hold things together. I'm mostly in the office. I try to get out as much as I can, but we certainly have a lot going on. So that's kind of how I got here.
Awesome. No, I think that's really interesting because I know there's going to be a lot of other millwork company owners, second generation millworkers that I think can relate to a lot of your story, and a lot of people that don't get the opportunity necessarily to connect directly with other like-minded with similar backgrounds. But there's so many of them that I've met and that I know are in the industry around the U.S. at least.
Transition too, it's so important, and it's why when it's a family business and it's you and your father especially, right, or your mother or however that is, that transition's got to be slow for your team as well. That's really where it comes down to just really slowly kind of doing things, doing the work, gaining their trust, showing them how things work. You can't just get thrusted into that role on day one. And then when the transition finally comes, the goal would be for your team to say, well, you sit them down and say, oh, today I am the CEO. And then, their question should be, I thought you already were. Like, you're already, that's how slow and gradual and natural that transition should be to be successful. That's what we've found anyways.
Right. No, that makes sense. And so in that transition, and then even since then, in your time, being CEO of a company that now is experiencing a great deal of growth, and I'm sure, you guys have moved buildings, you've made investments, you've added people, and in any business, and as a leader, there's challenges, right? What are some of the things that you've learned, obviously the change management, and then since then to navigate that growth, like developing yourself as a leader of a team, right? Are there things that you've learned, and if you go back, hey, I wish I'd known this then, but now what I've learned has changed how you lead?
Absolutely. You kind of touched on it already. I think John Maxwell, the law of the lid. As the leader, you are the lid on the growth of your company. The company cannot grow past you. So it's very important that you continue to grow as well. So I've been very intentional, do a lot of reading. I do not listen to the radio. If I'm in the car, I'm podcasting. And when I'm not listening to your podcast, there's a lot of really great leadership podcasts. John Maxwell has podcasts. I really like Brian Hawk's The Learning Leader. Ed Milet has really great stuff. There's just a ton of information, and it's all free. It's really unbelievable how easy it is to learn and grow now, having all that for free at your fingertips all day long. So we do a lot of that, try to do, and we'll get into the culture stuff, but we have a lot of personal development and things we do here, both for us and for the entire company. And then on the other side of the growth is, your customers. You need to keep your customers happy. You need to, which seems obvious, but when your bucket doesn't have any holes and you're retaining all those customers, it's easier to fill it faster. So we have, an incredible retention rate for our customers. We are more expensive than most, so sometimes it takes them arguing and pleading our case to the owners and the architects to get us on the job, but they know it's going to be the top quality, the best service. We're going to do our punch, and we're going to make everything right at the end of the day, one way or the other. So that's kind of how we've maintained growth. It's been very organic. Like you mentioned, Charleston's just booming. So we have a set number of there's only 10, 15 contractors in the area, and most of them use us as much as possible. And as they grow and as the growth in Charleston happens, it just organically comes to us. So we're just trying to keep up with some of them because it's really it's pretty wild in Charleston and down in the South. But we don't travel at all, so all of our work will be in Charleston. And we did $11.2 million last year, and then we did $7 million in 2022. So we 54% growth, I think, year over year. So that growth we've kept an eye out. We're looking ahead. We're being strategic. We're trying to make the right hires, and it actually went very, very smoothly. I mean, we were super excited. 23 was not hair on fire all year. It was very, very smooth, very smooth. So we're excited about that.
Was that you mentioned that's like 50% growth year over year, which is huge, and that's a huge accomplishment, especially to get through it. And like you said, your hair's not on fire. You're not like, oh my gosh, let's never do that again. How much of that was planned? Meaning, like, did you go into the year planning, hey, we want to grow 50%, or did you blow past goals that you had, for example?
Exactly. Yeah. No, we blew past the goals. We were thinking we were kind of in the $9 million range. So we've slowly grown. When I started in 2007, I think we were doing $3 million, and the pinnacle was $5 million a year. And slowly we got up to about 2018. I think we kind of plateaued at the $7 and $8 million range, and we were steady there until last year. And even through COVID, we dropped some. We were in the $7 million, $7.5 million in 21 and 22. But yeah, we weren't going after it. We don't really market. I mean, like I said, we're in commercial cabinetry. Mm-hmm. It's a little different than residential. So the commercial guys, they send us bid invites, we bid the jobs, and the contracts just kept coming. And I mean, like most of the listeners probably, it's the hardest part is figuring out, not getting the contract, but figuring out when it's actually going to happen to try to plan, because schedules are we're at the end of the job. So by the time they get to us, all the contingency's gone. It's delayed for a month or 2 or 3. So it's hurry up and get it done. But that part is difficult. But the growth itself, we thought we were going to do 9 million. And we blew right past that pretty quick.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. So you alluded to this, but I want to talk a little bit about, your company culture, because I know this is something that you are very intentional about, and you guys do a lot of really great work for your culture. But related to, what we were talking about before, your growth as CEO, I'm curious how much, obviously they go hand in hand, personal growth and team growth and culture, right? But do you feel that like your personal growth has influenced how you approach culture, or do you feel like your need for culture has motivated you, like, oh man, I need to grow personally, or is it a little of both?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I would say it's a little bit of both. As an individual, I want to constantly be growing as well and getting better. We have 4 kids. I want to set a good example for them. I want to provide for them in and out of the business, whether they get involved in this or not. I want to be able to help them along and show them the right way to do things. So there's definitely some internal desire to grow and get better. But at the same time, the company, it takes a lot. And business is easy until people are involved. So you got to really work on them. And that law of the lid works. It's not just the CEO. Like everybody's leadership in each department, the leader of that department can hold back that department if they're not growing and getting better and working with the right people. Or so that is in 2020 I woke up one day and it just I wasn't super excited about going to work. And it's my business and I'm the boss, and that's a problem, right? If I'm not excited, I know a lot of my people aren't. And so we really kind of went on a cultural revolution then. I'm very involved outside of the company as well, and we had made some connections with a workplace kind of leadership consultant, and we hired her that year and put her on a retainer, and we just started digging into everything. And I mean, I can touch on there's a lot, like you said, but touching on a few of the bigger items. So everybody that we hire, so DISC, D-I-S-C, is a behavioral assessment. It kind of it's a 10-minute test you can take online, and it dives into how you behave, how you think, how you're wired, and really makes a very clear picture. It's really unbelievable how well it pinpoints you. So we do a DISC assessment on everybody who works here, and after 60 days, you get DISC assessed. So we know We know your personality. We know how you behave and how you like to be presented information. And then we post those on all of our offices. So every office has a disc flyer or disc diagram on the door, and it says, this is, I am Leslie, I am a CD. These are the things I like. I like a lot of information. Some of them, like some of our C's, which are the more calculating, concise, engineering type people. One of them says, I like emails. It's just because they like that information and they like it there. But then we have a whole lot of I's. I's are your more outgoing and then people oriented, and they're the ones where you go to their office, you see, oh, this is an I. I need to have a little conversation about their family first. They want to talk about, how's your kids? How are things going? They want to have a little chat every morning, and then you get to business. And then your D's are just the doers, man. They're trying to check the box and they're moving and going and getting things done. And when you go to a D's office, you want to just kind of get to the point. You don't need to talk about family and stuff because they're ready to go to the next task. So that's really just an invaluable tool. And it's just a foundation of a lot of the other work we do is based on DISC and where you fall in that. Because the key is that DISC shows your areas of opportunity as well, your weaknesses per se. So when we do things, everyone's DISC assessed. Then we'll do a lot of workshops. So we'll have our consultant's name is Liz Ashley, the line Workplace Behaviors. So we'll do a lot of workshops with just individual teams. So production will do like a lunch and learn workshop every quarter. Install guys will do a workshop on different topics. The office, project managers and estimators, and then we have clerical. But we work on things like, we've done agile EQ, so your emotional intelligence. We've done productive conflict, because everyone, based on your DISC style, handles conflict differently. And knowing your weaknesses and knowing how other people address it helps mesh better and produce a better result, because you have to have productive conflict to get to the results. And then we have, our managers will go through some management type modules as well and show how they manage their natural tendencies to manage, some best practices. And so there's a lot of those are fully paid. We'll buy lunch. We do the thing during the workday. We also have big company-wide events every quarter, which is tied to their bonus. If they come to these extra things, it's like extra credit. They get money to their bonus at the end of the year. And we'll cover some of the same things in a bigger setting and a longer setting, like a 4 to 5 hour workshop. Again, we always have food. Everybody loves food. So, and then we also do spousal events. So we want to get to know your family. We do a big appreciation event every year with all of our team and spouses and suppliers, just our individual group, no clients, no architects, just us. We're going to celebrate the year, get to know each other. We get spouses, we do a lot of DISC assessments on spouses, because if you know your wife or your husband's style, that helps with your relationship. And if your relationship at home is strong, you're going to be more productive at work. And we've also done some 5 love languages with the spouses. We did a spousal event with 5 love languages. Same concept. If you know how someone feels love, you can, again, strengthen that relationship. And
Right.
we do some personal finance things as well. We found, especially nowadays with inflation and interest rates, you can only charge so much for a cabinet or for a trim. We can't pay you out of bad decisions, financial decisions that you've made. But we can help you make good decisions. And so we do some personal finance stuff as well and try to help people when we can. And then, those are some of the high levels. And then we also do community service events every quarter. Again, we kind of tie it to their year-end bonus. It's an extra credit. They have full control. If you do this event, you get this much money on your end of the year bonus. So the community service is only like $100 because we want you to do that, not for the money, but for, because it's the right thing to do, because that's what we believe as a company. We give away a lot of money, and we really firmly believe in, the principle of reaping and sowing, and to whom much is given, much is, required. So, and those events are super fun too. We'll go to a food bank, and our guys are such hard workers. They'll have a plan for a couple hours of work. We'll knock it out in 30 minutes, and then they're scrambling to try to find something else for us to do while we're there. And it's really great to intermix the team as well. Like, we get all the departments together on these events and let them get to know each other. So we don't have these cliques, that naturally form just from human tendencies. We want you to intermix and get to know everybody. And so all of that's been, it's been invaluable in our employee retention, engagement, and just overall health of the company. And there's just no way we could have experienced that kind of growth. We could have gotten through that if we didn't have such a strong team and, such a great culture built. We've literally kind of had a little waiting list of for new hires, that people will come and we just don't have a position yet, but they said they're ready to go. When we continue to grow, we open up a new position, they're in line to come work here. So it's super rewarding.
Yeah,
especially
sounds like,
yeah.
well, it sounds like there have been already a lot of probably quantifiable benefits to the business, right? Like you mentioned, retention, recruiting is easier, and obviously you started off like you guys are a premium provider in your market, right? So you guys are not the cheap people, and people are getting a certain level of quality and service from that. But I'm curious, do you feel, because last year you recognize you grew 50%, and I imagine for any company that's like a pressure pot. That's a lot to, one, you have to probably grow your team to some extent, but you definitely grow the work you're doing and all that stuff. How much do you think this work that you've done over the last several years of culture, goes into your team being able to do that and come out the other side intact? Like, could you imagine Low Country Case of Millwork 5 years ago or 8 years ago, before all this culture work, being capable of 50% growth without significant, damage to the team?
Yeah, no, not at all. I think that was key. The cultural improvements, the team, it definitely would have happened without all of that. And we invest a lot of money in all the events and all the things, but it pays dividends. Hands down. So, one of the earlier projects we actually did in our kind of cultural revolution was, we established a set of core values. People want to be empowered, or people need to be empowered to make decisions. So, but if you don't have these values set in stone, plastered on the walls, and you're not talking about them on a weekly basis, they don't know how to make those decisions. So then they come ask you, right? So it's a revolving door of people at my door just asking simple questions, what my opinion is, and that's not sustainable at these kind of levels either. So establishing those core values was step one. So our core values, we kind of have a little acronym. It's CAN DO IT. We're customer focused. We're agile. We never stop growing. We provide a damn good product. Ownership. We act like owners. Integrity, and then team. So you put all those together, and there's not a question that comes up that can't be answered by one of those values. And this is what we believe. And when we're in the hiring process, we bring up the core values every time, and we have several interviews because that cultural fit is so important. We can't, that's more important than the skills a lot of times. We need you to fit in culturally. We can teach you the skills, but you need to be a we, and this is what we believe. And if you don't believe this, then maybe you're not a we, and we wouldn't hire you. So, but that was really huge, especially with this kind of growth. Just from a time standpoint, your leaders throughout the company, your mid-level, your lower level, they all need to be able to make decisions without asking the question, and they need to be able to move, quickly and on the fly. So those core values really helped empower. And then empowering people, when you can make those decisions and you make the right decisions and things go well, and then you feel good about yourself, and then you feel better about your work. And, that leads right into that retention rate. So we have a 90+% retention rate of our team. And when you're retaining your team members, of course it's easier on management. We're not hiring all the time. We have the same people, but then they're also growing. their skills are growing. They're growing personally. They're becoming better people. So you keep the same people for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, you have a solid foundation and a solid team that can make amazing things happen. They can, blast out 54% growth in 1 year without blinking an eye. So that is truly where the cultural improvements, paid dividends. It was really fun to watch and see that happen. It's really fun being with everybody and everybody engaging. And, the disc is part of our company vernacular now, seeing how it's just intermixed with conversations in the hallway. And it's super cool. I really can't recommend enough, investing in that culture and your people to get to that kind of level and experience that yourself. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm curious because I can already kind of hear some of the maybe more jaded mill workers or leaders or owners in the industry that are thinking, oh man, it's easy to invest in all that culture stuff when you can charge premium prices. And I think if you were to speak to the millwork shop owner that is not there yet and is thinking that, man, margins are so tight and we're not profitable, and how could I have possibly afford? I want to do these things, but I don't see how it's possible, right? Like that's going to be some people listening to this, I imagine, right? And I imagine it's not overnight that you get to the place where you're at, and there is an investment that has to be made, as well as like you have to have money to invest in these things, and then they yield dividends to, but what would your thoughts be, or kind of advice to that person?
I think that's a valid argument, and margins are tight. And this obviously cuts into our margins a good deal. But I would say there are easier ways to do it. I don't think, you don't have to go all in and hire a consultant and do all that. You can self-drive some of this. I think, a pizza party, you can get Little Caesars, or I don't know if they're still $5 a pizza, but maybe $8 a pizza. You can buy pizza for your whole company. So we actually, every Thursday, we cut out 15 minutes early and we have a little happy hour. We work 4 10-hour days. So Thursday is our Friday. So it's off the clock, but we have a kegerator. We usually have it's a dual kegerator. So we have a little cheap beer and we have a nicer beer, and we pull that out on Thursday afternoon, and the whole company, again, your installers, your production, your project managers, everybody comes to the break room, and, we just might have a drink together, some snacks. It costs $100, and, just getting people together and mingling. That's huge. And same thing. Food's such a great way, and, a lunch. We also, we like for our different teams to every now and then go break bread, have lunch, like get the installers together, go to a restaurant, again, a couple $100, nothing super fancy, but just sit down together, take an hour and a half, and, talk about life, talk about your family, get to know each other. Those things are super valuable as well. Just getting people mixed between departments, getting that relationship built. And then some of these things, community service, again, it doesn't cost us anything. We find really great. We go to the food bank. You can do it like a habitat house. We did one with DNR last year, which was really cool. We made oyster reef, like these metal oyster reef things. And we're probably going to go with DNR again in a couple of months and go launch them, where they're building artificial oyster reefs in the marsh. And so, that kind of stuff's free. And the same thing, you're getting people together. They're not physically working at that point, so they can just relax, get to know each other, build that bond, and strengthen the team as a whole. And same with the spouses, just getting people in. There's plenty of books out there. You can buy books. You could have a book club. You can do this on a smaller scale, but it's still gonna help, especially in smaller shops. We have 55 people. We're not huge. But it can be done on a smaller scale, and it's still going to have the same effect.
Yeah. So it sounds like the key kind of concepts, the key parts of it is, being intentional with time together outside of doing work. And it doesn't have to involve spending money. And day one, you're not necessarily, paying for cruises for everybody. It could be pizza, it could be volunteer time, right? But eventually you'll reap dividends from that can increase over time as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, the stronger the team, the more bought in they are. And
Yep.
and then so we actually Pat Lencioni has a really great book. It's called 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team. So I would recommend that. It's a pyramid. It starts with trust, and trust in vulnerable type trust, and that's built through these kind of conversations. You build trust with one another, and then you can go to the next level, which is constructive conflict. You have to have this foundation of trust to be able to have these conflicts. So when someone has an idea and maybe you have a better idea, and y'all can hash it out, and that's how companies get better, when you can come together and talk about these things and brainstorm and have a little conflict and figure out the strongest way. But that's when the great ideas come and you get better. And once you've had that conflict and everybody's gotten to voice their opinion, you get to that commitment level. And then once everybody's committed, you hold each other accountable, and which is also difficult, and especially in today's world. But we struggle with the accountability one here. But then and then when you're holding everyone accountable, then you get those results, which is the top of the pyramid. So that's a really great book. But trust and that strength of a team is where it all starts. The other great book, so we talked about the 5 love languages. I think Gary Chapman, he also has one, the love languages of the workplace, which are basically the same ones, but how people feel appreciated. So we've been very intentional when we have someone doing great things. We call a green performer. Our department heads kind of turn in green performers every week. Someone who kind of went above and beyond, is doing a great job. We try to hit a lot of those love languages. So your love languages are acts of service, words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch, and I'm missing one. Quality time. So in the workplace, someone's doing a great job. We write them a letter, a little note. We get them, their favorite candy bar or their favorite soda or their favorite gift card or a gift card to their favorite restaurant, or we get them some little trinket, some little thing. Then we go, we pat them on the back. We tell them they're doing a good job. Here's a card. Here's some stuff. We appreciate you. And showing that appreciation is also key to, happy employees. They want to feel, they need to know they're doing a good job. They need to know and get those warm fuzzies, and that keeps them coming back and keeps them improving. And again, another thing, it's like we spend $30 a week or something for 3 or 4 people to have a little treat and an appreciation. So that's another good book, and kind of we've kind of put into practice that it's been pretty great. We get texts from people just how much they appreciate that. I love a Mountain Dew and a Reese's cup, and we know that you love Mountain Dew and Reese's cup, so we get that for you, and we give you that personal gift, and it's just a really cool thing. So
awesome. Well, that's a lot of really great advice, and I like that it's very specific. Those are some books that we can link and provide links to everybody, because it's a very low cost, low barrier of entry to start doing some of these things you're describing. I'd like to talk a little bit more about Low Country's market focus and the Charleston area, because for a lot of our listeners, they've never been to Charleston or don't really understand that market, right? And I think this is an interesting topic to me, because you said very clearly, hey, we don't travel, we work local, right? And I know that's something that a lot of shops struggle with, because it's, hey, maybe they're not in a market that's as big as Charleston, right? They're in a smaller area, and they maybe have to travel for work, or maybe they just feel pressure to take a job that's outside of their comfort zone to get revenue, right? And I know that's a tough decision for any owner to make, of like, hey, I need to fill the shop, I need to fill our team. But sometimes that might mean taking a job that really isn't profitable, or might not be a good fit for our skills or where we're at now. So I'm interested to hear, obviously you guys focus on commercial, you focus in the Charleston market. And so for those listening who don't know, Charleston in the metro area includes North Charleston and Somerville and Goose Creek and West Ashley and a bunch of areas around there, right? But there's a lot of industry over the last 5-10 years that has come there, auto manufacturing and Boeing, and there's a lot of different industries that have brought a lot of people. Plus, you've got military, plus the universities. There's a lot there. So there's plenty of new construction, plenty of opportunities. But within that, obviously, you guys have still chosen your niche, and I imagine have had to make some conscious decisions over time to turn down stuff or not go after Columbia or Myrtle Beach or Hilton Head or North Carolina, right? Can you talk a little bit about that thought process and that journey, maybe?
No, absolutely, and we're very fortunate. We're in a great area. I mean, as I mentioned earlier on, just the fact that my grandfather joined the Air Force, which brought us to Charleston. I mean, just how serendipitous. But yeah, the Charleston market is it's an unbelievable place. I mean, it's Condé Nast, like #1 destination for many years in a row. But then at the same time, we're the only place in the world, I believe, that builds commercial airliners and automobiles. So we have Boeing and we have Volvo all right here in the Tri-County area. And so, yeah, we chose, my father, Robert, went with commercial cabinetry from the start. It's a lot, in our opinion. I think it's a little easier than the residential market and dealing with homeowners and that kind of sporadic ups and downs. Granted, the housing market in Charleston is crazy. They can't build houses fast enough down here. But yeah, Charleston. So we're high end commercial cabinetry. Everything we do is custom. We do your hospitals, offices, churches, schools, hotels. A lot of hotels. Charleston's a lot of hospitality in Charleston. Very, very high end hotels. Which even we can only handle so many hotels at one time, like one or two. It's about, the size of these projects, even get above our capacity. We currently have one on Kiowa. It's a $3.2 million contract. Just one hotel in Kiowa. So that's kind of where we dabble. We are our thing right now is not only a quality product, but quality service and a quality culture. And tying back in, we just keep people happy. So we've made, it's nice to be busy and it's nice to be in a busy area because you can kind of pick and choose what jobs you're really going to go after. We are not beyond traveling. We've done it in the past. We just haven't needed to recently. We have a really big contractor last year, actually, who had a job in Greenville, and they needed us to help them out. So we did do some work in Greenville last year. A couple years before that, they had a job in Columbia. They needed help. We did that. So we will travel for the right the right client, the right contractor, because we want to keep those relationships open. And we're also not above any size job. We do $5,000 jobs. We do $3 million jobs. So again, it comes down to the client and doing what they need and keeping them happy and on Team LCCM. Those little jobs, I mean, they take a lot of time. They're kind of a pain. There's really no money there, but the little jobs will lead to those big jobs. And so we do, and we keep an eye on the outside stuff. We've sent some bids to Myrtle Beach for some hospitals, medical casework. We love medical casework, really good margins, plastic laminate, solid surface. I mean, we do all that in-house. And that was the other thing. We're kind of a turnkey operation. So we manufacture everything. We have a finish booth. If we need to paint, stain, we do that here, and we install it all as well. And that's just all value added. When we get hired by a contractor, they know that they're done. They don't have to worry about millwork anymore. They're going to get a great product. We're going to be ready for them when it'll be on time. Whether they're on time or not is another question, but we'll be ready when they are. And we're going to put it in. We're going to do our punch, and they're going to, they're going to be happy, and it's one less thing they have to worry about. So that's kind of our market, and the Tri-County area is very large and growing. We're approaching 1 million people in the next 5 or 6 years, I believe. So with that comes all the things. hospitals, a lot of hospitals been being built, and hospitals are also great because you're not going to go to a dingy hospital, so they constantly need to upgrade. So we're back there. We've been here for 34 years, and it's fun to go back to a job that we previously did, and they're ripping out our old cabinets and we're putting in new cabinets. So it's a great industry. We really love commercial work, and we dabble. I mean, of course, I'm sure everyone can relate. Some of our contractors ask us to do their houses on occasion, so we do dabble in residential. And that just reaffirms the fact that we don't really want to be in that market.
Yeah, it just reminds you why you don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
no, that's actually, it's interesting because I do see a lot of residential guys. I think both sides probably look at the other side. Some people, it's like the grass is greener, but I think a lot of people are like, man, I would never want to do commercial. I'm staying in residential. I think commercial think the same. And they're different things. I think residential, it's smaller, more volatile, work directly with the clients, but probably better for cash flow. Commercial, you've got to be able to work with, the terms and getting paid longer term agreements and stuff. But it's just a very different animal that I think people that aren't in the industry don't realize how different those two sides of the business are.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Commercials, it's a hard nut. Well, the industry in general is a hard nut to crack. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to maybe get into that later, but
yeah,
we're very fortunate to be interested and appreciative.
Awesome. So it sounds like it has been, there were some conscious decisions by your dad and as you've gone, but it's also more just, hey, the opportunity's there. Let's niche in on what's working and that makes sense now. And if the opportunity arises to travel, and it makes sense, then absolutely. I'm interested, we've talked a little bit about some of this, but kind of if you think about the industry at large, because obviously I think talent is a struggle for everybody. Talk about at least the U.S., right? And I think we are seeing a big generational shift. And something that's interesting that, kind of I thought of, because I've had a couple other second generation owners on here, and something that has been common with every second generation owner I've noticed, and I don't know if this is specifically second generation owner or just kind of our generation in general, is a big focus on culture. And I think that, in our industry, there's kind of the old way that I would imagine during your father's generation and a lot of people who founded these companies, culture was like, what is that? What like, we're here to get good work done fast, well, right? And there was a focus. And somewhat it's a luxury now that we are able to focus on culture, right? But do you feel that there's like growing up in the industry with your father and your grandfather, that has influenced the way you, like, I would imagine to some extent, no matter what, you want to build on the foundation your father left you and make improvements and grow beyond that. But also I would imagine there's some influence of like, hey, like you said, I woke up one day and I noticed I didn't want to go into work. And I'm sure your father probably had days like that, but he just pushed through and was like, that's just what work is, right? How much do you think being, kind of growing up in this industry has influenced that focus for you?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I love the old way, right? I would love to have a handshake contract and everybody just works because that's what you do, and they feel great about their work without all the extra stuff. And that's definitely easier, but I think what we're doing now is more rewarding as a whole because we are, we do a lot. We don't want you to we never stop growing both in your career and personally. We want you to grow as an individual as well. And if you do happen to leave us one day, we want you to be a better person because you were here. Right. But yeah, the generational thing it's really unbelievable. I think this is the first time ever you could have up to 5 different generations in a workplace. Yeah. And it's pretty wild. And Tim Elmore did some really great work I was reading on generations because we struggle with that. The Gen Z, the millennials, the Gen Z, it's just different. So yeah, like I said, Tim Elmore did some great stuff, and he actually said by 2025, like next year, millennials and Gen Z are going to make up 70% of the modern workplace. So you're going to have to figure out how to work with them and hire them and keep them happy and keep them with you. And there's a lot of they get a bad rap, right? Millennials or Gen Z, and it's unnecessary. I don't think it's justified. I think like any generation, people are different and people matter, and the people in those generations matter. I think there's some really great millennials and Gen Z. I have one of my project managers is a Gen Z, and I'm seeing a lot of this. And what Gen Z, from what I've been reading and what they look for is more autonomy, and they will expect better benefits and higher pay, just from how they've grown up the last several years. But in return, they do bring a lot of grit, and they I think he called it a hacker's mindset. They can get behind the system and figure out how it works, and then they're just a totally set of fresh eyes and perspective that probably I would never see some of the stuff they see. And so there really are. It's all about finding the right people. That interview process, really long, multiple interviews, making sure you're not getting one of the bad ones. But if you get a good one, I mean, they're a rock star. I mean, my project manager, I mean, he's looking for problems, and he wants to do a little less project management and more dives into just finding bigger issues and make us more efficient. He just likes solving problems. And so the thing is, and again, one of our core values is being agile, and that's what it takes. I mean, you have to adapt and be agile with how you operate your business as we move forward, because who knows what the next generation is going to be. I mean, how different they will be. But, to continue Low Country Case Millwork, to continue its survival, we're going to have to hire new people and different generations, and we're going to work really hard to adapt and keep that going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's awesome. I think I'd be interested. I've heard some statistics about just kind of the construction industry, but like there's a crazy high percentage of the industry is still 40 or older. I think in comparison to just the nation as a whole, the working population. So I think that generational shift is going to be much more significant for us in millwork, especially over the coming years, and it's already happening. Well, shifting gears a little bit, we talked a little bit about this in the past. You have some experience with AWI best practice groups, and I think your father did. It started with him, right? I'm curious, just kind of how that went, what that looks like, because I know there's probably a lot of people that either are in them or are curious about them and don't understand how they work, but you're placed with a group of non-competitive, like-minded professionals or owners, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, key is they're non-competitive, so it's kind of all over the country, and our group meets 3 times a year. And like anything, not everyone can make everyone, but we always host at a different company. So you're actually getting to fly Arizona or Colorado, go into a millwork firm, just a completely different state, non-competing, see what they're doing, kind of give recommendations on what you see where they might improve, take back some insight. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and thinking that what you do is perfect and there's no room for improvement is a surefire way for failure. So I highly do recommend those best practice groups. The AWI charges a very minimal annual fee. So then on top of that, you're just talking about, plane and lodging for a day or two. But we made some great connections, and there people have been cycled off of our group and new people have come on. So then there's some fresh blood and fresh ideas, fresh perspective. One of ours was actually a group in Texarkana. It's a millwork firm who bought a stone company. So he's doing, millwork and stone, which is, water and wood. It doesn't really go together, but so that's super interesting to see that. And because we sub out all our stone. We have a really, really fortunate to have a great partner there that we do a lot of work with. And but if we didn't, I mean, that would be that could be an option as well. So meeting other business owners. A lot of them are owners. Some of them might just be really upper management, but having a sounding board, leveraging their experiences, their mistakes, their successes. I mean, that's really, really valuable. And and even between meetings, there's a lot of emails going back and forth. If we're looking for a machine or a software, we could kind of ping the group and see what they think and what their experience is, or if there's some kind of issue going on. Again, you can reach out to 4, 5, 6 other millwork owners and get their perspective and their ideas. Because you can't do this in a silo. That's one of the reasons you want to grow your team internally, is to have some backup and have some a management team that can go through all this big stuff. And then this is just a whole nother option, to have a whole nother set of eyes, unbiased, unrelated. Sometimes your internal stuff, you're a little too close to the problem, or people's feelings get in the way because it all affects everybody. But having a third party, it's a really cool program. Highly recommend that one.
Awesome. No, that's great. I think it's a good snapshot for those that might be interested or curious about it. Well, before we wrap up, there's 2 questions I like to ask every guest. I'm very interested to get your take, and we talked a little bit about some of these things, but the first being, what do you anticipate in our industry, in the millwork industry, changing over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, like you touched on it, the labor. I think labor is a big issue. We need new blood. We need people in, and not just millwork, but in construction in general. We've got to shift away from this notion that, in order to be successful, you have to go to college, especially with as expensive as college is now. It's just not the ROI it's not there anymore. With all that debt and the interest rates. So we really, and I'm heavily involved in the Charleston Metro Chamber. I'm on the board and several committees, and really pushing in their educational work, trade schools and getting trades back into public schools, not necessarily just standalone trade schools, but, having some of that, like, why did woodshop go away? That's such a great thing when you're a kid to learn to use your hands and build something and experience that, feeling of making something. People just don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. But we've got to get that interest back in the industry. And there's so much opportunity people don't understand. You can make really, really good money in millwork and in any of the trades. I was recently in Austin, Texas, and they have a program. It's called the P-Tech program. And when you are in 8th grade, you can decide whether to go into this program, and then it's a welding, specifically for welding. So if you go into the P-Tech program, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you do these welding classes, and by the time you graduate high school, you're a certified welder. And, you could go in the labor market making $30 an hour, like right out of high school. Things like that are going to be really vital to get people not only interested, but better educated about the monetary rewards, the personal, rewards of being a tradesman. So I think that's kind of concerning over the next 5 to 10 years. And then, of course, financing. Millwork is a high capital expenditure industry. Yep. So we do, we make a lot of money, but then we spend every bit of that money on machinery, and with the interest rates and whatnot, and the technology getting more and more, needing more and more technology even to compete. I worry about new firms, being able, a new entrepreneurial, person trying to get into the industry. that kind of money, and then going into crazy debt to get there, and then that's just so risky as well. And so that part's just concerning as well. We again, my father is just super on top of things. We're debt free other than the building. We always have been. We pay, if you can't buy it in cash, you can't afford it. So we don't have any notes on any of our machines. We bought $500,000 in machines last year, just in cash, and we hadn't bought any for many years before that with the COVID. Wasn't very profitable, but that is also kind of troubling. Just how to get people in the industry, or if they want to start their own millwork firm, that's a lot, and I feel it's really tough. It's going to be it's just going to get tougher.
Right. No, I agree. I think that all makes sense. That's interesting. It's because it's a unique perspective that I don't think I've had somebody share and talk about, specifically the financing and the investment side of it, which is significant because, as we talk about, there is a certain amount of turnover in this industry, not just of talent, but of companies, because it used to be very low barrier of entry to start a cabinet shop. I got a saw, I've got a garage,
Yeah.
right? And
That
it's
was
really
it.
not anymore. But it's very difficult to stay in business. So
Yeah, it's great for existing companies, but
yeah,
we want new blood. I mean, you can't, and we can't do this forever either, right? So.
yeah, absolutely. Well, on the flip side of that, what core aspects do you see staying the same over the next 5 to 10 years? What do you think will not change?
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, but I mean, people. I think the people. I think AI and machinery are going to be great supplements to the things we do and help make us more efficient. And but I think people are always going to be there. I just don't really see. And I could be wrong, but I don't really see robots building cabinets and 100% building cabinets anytime in the foreseeable future, anyways. So I think people are always going to be a part of this. I think they should be. I mean, I think there's a certain. That's what makes it cool, right? Somebody made this with their hands. I mean, yeah, machines cut the parts, but someone put this together with their hands, and they sanded it, they made it look perfect, they painted it, all the things. I mean, that's what's kind of really neat about the woodworking and seeing that finished product, and it's super rewarding. And I think people are going to stay involved. I think they need to be involved, and I think we need more of them.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get nervous, and I think it's kind of a second wave of like what we saw with automation and CNC equipment. It's like, oh my gosh, these machines are going to take our jobs. And more so, if anything, it kind of creates just different jobs. It definitely eliminates some things people used to do, but now there's people that need to operate them. And similarly with software and AI and things, these are all new tools that we're figuring out how to leverage, how to utilize. But you're never, especially in our industry, the cabinet has to get built, has to get put together, has to get installed, and that's not changing. We need people and the intelligence of people to accomplish that.
Great point. And then, of course, that's just the cabinet side. We also the trim and the millwork, the paneling, all that.
Yeah.
That's definitely not going anywhere. I mean, sending a robot to a job site to put crown molding. I mean, it's going to be people. So
awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for taking time out and sharing all the great things you're doing about culture. I know there's a lot of value in this for so many in this industry to hear and will be inspired. If anybody is interested in finding out more about Low Country Case and Millwork, about David Stasiukaitis and asking questions, what's the best way for them to reach out or find out more information?
So our website is just lccm.com. We're on the social media. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram as well. My email is just david@lccm.com. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. I mean, one of our big values as a family, me and my wife, Amy, we run this together, actually. Probably should have said that up front. I apologize. But we work together. We're a really good team. But one of our values as a family is to make a difference. We want to make a difference. So we want to make a difference in our community. We want to help people, and we want to, make a difference for our team here as well. So please feel free to reach out. Happy to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And look forward to, I'll link all those things in the show notes so it's easy for everybody. And look forward to talking again soon.
No, thank you. Thank you for what you do. I think this podcast is a great way to bring some awareness to the industry. So I appreciate you putting this all together.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.